Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at something literally unprecedented in financial history. We're peeling back the layers of the upcoming SpaceX IPO. And I've got to tell you, the sheer scale of this whole thing is absolutely staggering. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar move that could fundamentally rewrite the rules of both aerospace and global finance.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our agenda for today. First up, the ultimate mega IPO. Second, engineering the stock lockup. Third, Starship's economic engine. Fourth, the AI megafab plan. And finally, risks in the void.
So, Section 1, the ultimate mega IPO, unpacking the largest planned public offering on record.
You know, this isn't just your standard public offering. This is a historic financial milestone. $74.4 billion. Let that sink in for a second. $74.4 billion. That represents the expected net proceeds if all the base shares are sold at the anticipated $135 offering price. It's the largest planned public offering on record, and it dwarfs practically everything that's come before it. But as you can imagine, generating that kind of capital requires a very specific corporate structure to keep things under control.
And here's how they're doing it. The voting power is split drastically. You've got Class B shares holding 88.5% of the power, while the publicly offered Class A shares hold just 11.5%. So how does that actually work? Well, it's a dual-class structure where those Class B shares are given 10 votes each. The absolutely crucial point here is that even after raising over $74 billion from the public, Elon Musk retains approximately 83.6% of the total individual voting power. Basically, he is firmly keeping control of the company's direction.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the unprecedented fast entry rule for the NASDAQ 100. Because of its sheer massive size, SpaceX will qualify to join the index after only 15 days of trading. And why does this matter to us? Because it acts like a total accelerant. It forces passive index funds, the funds that just automatically track the benchmark, to buy SpaceX shares almost immediately. It creates this huge, massive wave of guaranteed demand right out of the gate.
Moving on to Section 2, engineering the stock lockup, metering sales to prevent volatility.
So with all that guaranteed demand we just talked about, how on earth does the company handle early investors who might want to cash out? Well, Morningstar captured this perfectly. They noted SpaceX has built a tiered rolling release schedule designed to meter, not block, sales by its longest tenured shareholders. Essentially, SpaceX is engineering its stock rollout with the exact same precision they use to engineer their rockets. See, a traditional IPO has a strict 180-day lockup where nobody can sell, which honestly often leads to a massive market crash on day 181. SpaceX is actively engineering their way around that to prevent a massive wave of shares from hitting the market all at once.
Instead of facing a single cliff, investors can sell in 7% increments. This starts at 70 days, then 90, 105, 120, and finally 135 days. There are even performance-based triggers that allow for early sales if the stock trades 30% above its IPO price. But, and this is a big but, at the 366-day mark, Elon Musk and certain significant early investors will finally unlock. They've actually agreed to sit out of the sale entirely for over a year, which signals some really intense long-term confidence to the broader market.
All right, Section 3, Starship's economic engine, the $10 billion infrastructure play.
So it really begs the question, why raise over $74 billion in the first place? Well, the answer is to build a macroeconomic disruptor. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what that means. If you compare the current industry workhorse, the Falcon 9, which carries 22 tons to low Earth orbit at roughly $3,000 per kilogram, to Starship, it's just wild. At a mature scale, Starship targets 150 to 250 tons of payload at less than $50 per kilogram. Guys, that is a targeted 99% cost reduction, all combined with up to 11 times the payload capacity.
To understand how a cost reduction of that magnitude is even possible, we really have to look at the operational shift. The old aerospace model, even with partially reusable rockets, is largely based on building a massive, incredibly expensive vehicle for every single trip. But the new Starship model, it's entirely focused on achieving full, rapid reusability. Basically, once that functional reusability is actually achieved, the marginal cost drops to just the cost of fuel and operations. It completely transforms the rocket from a disposable vehicle into a true aircraft-like logistics platform.
A really massive piece of that puzzle is propulsion, which is traditionally the most expensive part of any launch. The dramatic cost curve of the Raptor engine tells this story perfectly. Early costs were sitting around $1 million per engine, but through extreme vertical manufacturing and economies of scale, SpaceX is driving that target cost down to between $500,000 and $250,000. And that right there gives them a competitive moat that is going to be incredibly difficult for legacy aerospace companies to ever replicate.
Which brings us to Section 4, the AI megafab plan. This is the unexpected pivot to compute infrastructure. Now this leads us to a super fascinating question, one you might be wondering yourself. Why on Earth, or rather, why in orbit, does a rocket company need AI megafabs? What exactly is the intersection between heavy-lift aerospace and artificial intelligence?
The answer is something called a terafab. Detailed directly in the perspective, this is an early-stage initiative to build large-scale AI chip manufacturing capacity specifically for space-optimized chips. So SpaceX isn't just launching satellites to beam internet down to us anymore. They're actually building highly vertically integrated platforms to extend AI compute infrastructure directly from Earth up into orbit.
And the strategy plays out in 3 really rapid-fire steps. Step 1, mass-produce these space-optimized chips right in their own megafabs. Step 2, launch them in massive quantities. And Step 3, deploy a vast orbital AI compute network. But here's the catch. These AI compute satellites are extremely heavy, and they require massive scale. This entire 3-step plan absolutely requires Starship's full reusability and that massive 150-ton payload capacity to be economically compelling. Literally, without Starship, the AI megafab plan simply stays grounded.
Finally, Section 5, Risks in the Void, navigating the harsh realities of space and regulation. Now, of course, none of this is a guaranteed success. The prospectus is actually very clear about the severe execution, cost, and timing risks involved in this whole master plan. Let's rapidly run through these stark warnings. First up, FAA launch license delays could completely disrupt their required high-cadence launch schedule. Second, Starship might just fail to scale or achieve full reusability. Third, the sheer proliferation of satellites significantly increases the risk of space-debris collisions, which could easily destroy orbital infrastructure. Fourth, despite all that vertical integration, they still rely pretty heavily on key third-party suppliers. And finally, orbital AI compute is entirely unproven in the harsh, highly radioactive environment of space. Look, the technology is undeniably groundbreaking, yes? But for anyone watching this space, these regulatory hurdles and operational threats are massive roadblocks that could completely derail the entire timeline.
So at the end of all this, we're really left to ponder the true macro vision behind the largest public offering in history. As you look at the $74.4 billion raise, the totally unprecedented stock lockup engineering, and that bold pivot to orbital AI, ask yourself this: is Starship just a rocket? Or is it the logistics platform for an entirely new orbital economy? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helped you decode the massive complexities behind this historic milestone. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.